As a marketer, I don't often get the chance to geek out about brewing. And when I do, there's no one better to do that with than Danie Odendaal. After 21 years with SAB, Danie could no longer withstand the call to do his own thing. So in 2018, Danie started Bearded Brew. In this episode, we talk about his journey and the work that he does in the craft brewing industry. Please welcome Danie Odendaal to the show. My name is Holger Meyer, and this is BeerWorld. Welcome to the show, and today my guest is Danie Odendaal. Welcome to the show, Danie.
Thank you very much, Holger.
Danie, we met, I think it was 2015, when you invited me on a hop tour, and that was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, it's that many years ago already. The hop tour, I think that was the second or third one we did already. And basically the idea behind it was, at that stage, I was involved with SA breweries, and I had this great opportunity to actually see hop farms, the maltings, and see the in-depth stuff. But the most interesting thing is that I think South African beer lovers didn't get to see was actual hop harvest. You see a lot of that on, if you go on YouTube and that, and you see Yakima Valley and that, there's lots of videos about it and everything. But to physically be on the field where they're harvesting hops, go to the drying sheds or the picking sheds, then the drying sheds, I think that's a very, very unique opportunity. And the idea for that tour, I mean, you've been on it, was essentially, that is actually the reason to actually go and see that and experience once a year experience, because that's only in March, and it's for like 2 to 3 weeks is their harvest time. So you can't see it any other time of the year, and it's a very, very narrow window. And we used to plan the actual tour around that, and then as add-on, because we were down there, we went to go visit different breweries. Got the opportunity then to sit one-on-one with the brewmaster of that brewery, get to learn a little bit about him and taste his products or her products. And then, I think the first few years we tried to do too many in one day. And eventually we settled on 3 breweries a day. That is a good number otherwise you're always late. You're always more over the hill than what you like to be at the end of the day. Because then it's still the get together afterwards, because a group of brewers all together in either a hotel or at a big B&B, at a central venue and stuff, and you kind of have some fun discussing the day stuff, and of course have a lot of beers as well. So
I found that a wonderful experience, and with every cent that we had to contribute. Are those tours still available? Has SAB stopped them?
No, they're still available to be done. I just haven't done any during COVID. And with this year, when it was started time to organize whatever, the whole Omicron thing came along. And at that stage, because it's such a huge undertaking to actually, you basically looking after 15, 20 people. I'm organizing all of that stuff. I just wasn't prepared to take a chance, get along. So we've already spoken to the hop farms and that for next year. So we will definitely be doing a hop farm tour next year. And we'll probably open up first come, first serve basis, the entries in probably October.
Yeah. And Danie, I think most importantly, out of these trips, a whole community was born, because you had this WhatsApp group.
Yes.
Do you have any idea how big that group is now?
It's an excess of 100 people at the moment, and a lot of them is really craft brewers and beer enthusiasts. Yeah. So the group originally was, this is, to keep track of what's going on the tour and to get information out. And it kind of evolved from that into the Hopaholic group, which, now has got all the brewers from the different breweries that we visited over the years are basically on there. Yeah. And some beer lovers and that, and it's really an interactive group. And as you say, that alcoholic notification jumps up on my screen. It's Anya's birthday today, so
yeah. Danie, so when we met, you were still working for SAB. Tell us a little bit about your career at SAB.
So my career at SAB was basically about 21 years.
Okay.
Started out there as a trainee brewery, fresh out of university. Did a 2-year apprenticeship with them. Essentially working every job in the brewing, from unloading malt from train trucks to scrapping yeast from fermenters to washing them to brewing on different brewing systems. And then obviously there's a big checkout at the end of that 2-year period where SAB was quite good in their training. You had 2 years. We had to do training at night, during the day. You still had to work shifts. You had to act in different positions. So you understood the whole brewery, exactly how it worked, right up to packaging side. And then, at the end of 2 years, if they deemed you are capable, you get a kind of indication. Listen, next week's your checkout, and they fly you to another brewery in South Africa, one of the other 7. And then, you sit there with the training. It's not director. What was he called? The training manager, the brewmaster of that brewery, and then normally the head brewmaster or the that used to come down, and you'd have a full day checkout where they asking you questions. You do walk around in the plant. What type of pump is this? How does that work? Explain to me this flow meter. How would you, through the lab, how would you calibrate this machine? Here's a fake malt analysis. Tell us, would you unload it? The brewery is waiting. Brewery is standing. Do we unload this, or is it going to give you problems? Kind of, and then kind of scenarios. You've got this type of smell in a beer. We did tasting as well. They would dope some beers. You would do tasting, and then that'll be part of the question. So it was a very, very intense day. You basically start at 7 and end at 5, 6 in the afternoon. So and then
you do it at a different brewery just to make sure you don't do it with your mentor.
Yeah, because you've had 2 years of getting to know your brewery. So suddenly you're in another brewery. Technology is slightly different. They want to see, are you practical, or can you actually, if you see a situation, if you see this kind of thing, can you work out, this must be, there's that line going that way, so that's coming from there to here, so this must be a yeast cropping line. I can see that because, look at the type of pump. There's a positive displacement pump on here. It's going to that room. Okay, so that must be the yeast room. All of those kind of things. So,
Okay.
And then passing out, and then your career actually starts as a kind of brewery. You might do some team leader stints, and then become those days it was brand brewer, technical brewer, and then they worked you at different breweries, so you build up experience. And eventually became a brewmaster myself at Polokwane Brewery and at Roslyn Brew at Shamdor Brewery. And this was the beauty of SAB is you would be challenged in so many different ways. After being brewmaster, one of the jobs I used to do was as a new product development brewer. I became a consumer scientist for SAB, working on new product development, but on the organizing and managing of these processes and everything. And then after that, came back out and became a brewing consultant. And then basically after that, AB InBev took over. And then I looked after raw material and innovation into Africa. So for the different breweries into Africa, looking at, using different raw materials, specializing in the alternative raw materials like sorghum, cassava, wheat, flour, starch, maize, those kind of things, and developing processes and things around that. Yeah, and that was kind of the 21 years working through SA breweries.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's quite a formal structure, very much like the Germans. I had a podcast interview with Prince Leopold. I mean, his family had been brewing for 750 years, and he said now every craft brewer who's got shorts and a beard is a brewmaster. He's obviously trying to promote the Bavarian brewing universities.
Yeah, I think it's, there's quite a bit. I mean, I've got the brewing diploma from IBD behind me. I've got the master brewer as well, a BJCP, and then a Roxa taster training. So there's a huge development that goes on for the depth of understanding. And I think when you're a master of something, they say that story about 10,000 hours in a specific thing makes you a master of that craft. And even up to today, being involved in the craft industry where I am now, I am still amazed that I am learning new techniques and processes. And I came from a very commercial kind of environment, although the last 10 years of that I was quite involved in the craft industry, being also involved with Franson Street and Newland Spring. And then also going in the early years to the festivals and that, brewing some beers at SAB's Training Institute on that little 500 liter brewery. How SAB allowed me to do those kind of things, and how I pushed it in with being a brewmaster and all that stuff, I don't know, but yeah, I managed to get that in. And even now, I get to brew different types of recipes and work with raw materials in a different way as what my kind of classic or traditional background was to what I'm doing now.
You clearly know your subject and you're a master of it. Danie, tell us about what happened when you left SAB. You went out on your own.
Yeah, there came a point about 2 years in with ABMBF. I decided that I really want to concentrate on the craft stuff. You're getting older and you want to do more stuff that you like to do. So at that stage, I thought, I see there's a need. I've visited so many breweries and I've seen so many gaps. And most of the smaller equipment, the big commercial guys have found solutions for problems they have. Right? But on a smaller size, there's simple things that a lot of craft brewers can put in place to really change the quality of their product. If you go what we used to do at SAB from a technical and an analytical point of view, that beer was analyzed to death and understood, electron spin resonance, you name it, HPLCs, gas chromatographs. And then you come to a craft brewery and essentially all they do is pH, hydrometer or refrac kind of stuff. And you have the slightly bigger ones that can afford it, maybe doing some DO or CO2 analysis kind of thing. And that's quite a change if you go from where you've been and what you do. And I think there is, just in processing, understanding the stuff that that we used to focus on for foam flavor stability. There's simple stuff that breweries can do to really elevate the quality of their product. The beers might be good, so there's no issues with that the beer, your craft beer is bad. Beer is good, but you can take it one step up and another step up, and you can just kind of get above the craft scene and really just put your head above everything else. And that's what it's about. You need to give the consumer a reason to actually want to buy your product. He must always have a great experience with your product. It must be interesting. It must be a great tasting product, first of all. And I think that is what the challenge is for the craft brewer, is putting out relatively consistent, in the sense that craft beer does vary. I mean, the controls is not as precise as a big commercial brewery, but I think that's part of the art of a craft brewery is making a beer that is handmade. It's like a commercially made clothes versus handmade clothes. Handmade clothes, if it's done well, looks fantastic, and it's got just a different perception about it.
Yeah. And have you noticed that the quality of the craft beer has improved in South Africa?
I definitely think so. I think if you think probably 10 years ago, a lot of the craft scene was kind of emerging, and a lot of those emerging was homebrewers, and they were used to brewing with, this is really before Grainfathers and Brewzillas and all of these kind of, and Brewmeisters was really prevalent in the homebrewing community. Most people had a 3-tier kind of stainless steel keg or some pots or something like that. And I think when they went commercial, they tried to use the same technology because it's something that they were familiar with.
Yeah.
So the layout of scaling up, I can see lots of, kind of the older craft breweries. When I walk in, I can see, this is a home brewer design that's scaled up, and it comes with its own challenges. Each system is unique. But I think over the last 10 years, the craft beers have really, really developed. If you look at hygiene and microbial contamination, I really think that is very, very much in control. In the early days, if you didn't have it within 4 to 6 weeks, there was a chance that it could be variable. But I think, as the technology and as people's experience have really grown and the system is becoming more kind of growing into a more adult phase, the quality has really stepped up. And then the equipment has stepped up. If you go into 10 of the best craft breweries in South Africa, the equipment is top of the range basically. The equipment is, you can get very good stuff from China, or some local made stuff. And the guys are applying the craft very well.
Danie, tell us about some of the projects that you're working on at the moment.
The company that I started was called Bearded Brew, for obvious reason. Anybody that knows me knows I've had a beard forever and a day. It's actually quite unusual when Facebook brings up a very old memory and I've got like a small bookie or something like that. It's like, hey, who's that?
I've never seen one of those photos.
Listen, people still send me, hey, look what I found. Photo of you without a beard. And my mission was essentially is to help a craft brewer in one of a few ways. One is, if you want to start a brewery, help you put it in a brewery that's correctly sized for your application. All right. So many breweries I walk in have got either the brew house incorrectly sized and he's got 20 tanks, but he's only using, kind of 4 to 6 for the next 3 to 5 years. And the idea is spend the money that needs to be spent on the right equipment. And if you run out of tank space, and if you design your cooling and your brew house correctly, all you have to do is add a tank. And if you out of space, it means you're making money, which means you can then afford to add another tank or 2 tanks instead of spending all that money in the beginning and then having no money left, to spend on marketing, distribution. Because in my opinion, that's probably one of the biggest issues a new craft brewer has is he's coming in, he's spending 1.5-2 million rand minimum on a decently sized brewery, and to get a certain volume that he needs to run with, and he needs to pay this back. And you can't from day one, pay that money back. You're not going to be running full blast in that brewery. So when I do capacity calcs for a client, I kind of see where does he think in 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and then I size a brewery, correctly size his tanks and the amount and the equipment that he needs, look by his budget and try and give him the most cost-effective solution for what he needs, and then help him install that brewery. And then also a lot of brewers give them the procedures, train their brewer they're putting in, cleaning procedures on CIPs, on tanks, kind of get the microbial standards entrenched, how to make sure your heat exchangers are clean, concentrations, types of chemicals. It's really surprising at some of the breweries, because that's the one thing I do. The other thing is problem solving for a brewery, or kind of help them solve some of these issues. Getting to a brewery and guys are not using the correct concentrations, on caustic or on sanitizers, those kind of things. You work it out and you're like, "But you are 10 times lower than what is required to properly clean the solution." And then he's like, "Oh, but it works all the time." No, it doesn't work all the time. All right. You can't be marginal. And in my suggestion to brewers is, cleaning is not where you save money. You can save money anywhere else. Cleaning really, really, lack of cleaning or incomplete cleaning really affects your brand to the consumer. So this is not where you save. If you want to save by using a cheaper malt, you can process it differently. You can apply some processes and handling to do that. You can go from one type of yeast to another yeast, do some work around that. You can save money in there. Get your losses better by, setting up your mill correctly. How you lauter, how you mash, all of those kind of things. You can save a lot more than saving a little bit on cleaning chemicals. So problem solving is the other thing that I do for guys. And then also guys that's got equipment, or they bought some equipment and like, come and help us, or we don't know what to do. And I help them recommission that equipment and then apply the same standards and those kind of things. And I think lastly is kind of recipe development. And initially I thought I would do a lot more just on beer and those kind of things. And that has kind of evolved. I'm now into designing, kind of RTDs, the alcoholic mixes, cider, and that's really grown, and it's become a big part or bigger part of my business than I initially thought. Because a well-designed beer, gives you an edge from day one. And I think that is actually very, very important. I mean, you can have a good recipe and everything, but if you have an exceptional recipe where the raw materials are balanced, the hops is put in correctly, and kind of molded or become part of the beverage, you get a very, very different type of product versus just download a recipe from the internet. There we go. If you understand the raw materials you're going to get, and I think it's important, especially in South Africa where raw material supply can be inconsistent. Now you're using Viamin, then you're using Chateau, then you're using Crisp, because the shipments are coming in at different times, those kind of things. You need to understand your raw material, exactly what flavors are they giving, what aromas are you going to get from it, what's the impact on mouthfeel, body, foam, all of those things. So when I do a recipe design, I generally design it with, what is the main raw materials you get, and what's your secondary thing, your secondary raw material. So then I would design a recipe saying, this is your main ingredients. These are brand essential. If you can't get them, I don't think you can brew this beer to that standard. Otherwise, these ones, this is the suggested replacements if you need to with these adjustments. So I do what I call a brand pack. You get basically like a brand manual. It says, this is how you brew this beer. This is all the brand essentials, ratios, the alcohols, all the targets that you need to do, plus your brew sheet that you need to get. And you can take that and I size it for your brewery. I spec it to your losses in that for your system. And then off you go. So that's become a big part of what I'm doing now, with a lot of gin and tonic development, energy flavors, lots of flavored ciders and those kind of things coming through as well now.
And the hard seltzers?
I've done some hard seltzers, but it doesn't seem to be taking off in South Africa. Big time. And once the commercial guys, the big guys jump in, you got now the Flying Fish and who's these other guys that's come in there. it's a difficult match to actually kind of get it right. I think it's a real challenge to flavor a hard seltzer because there's basically no sugar. That's what it's be, or minimal, and to get a fruit flavor with no sugar and a specific acidity to present good is really an art. And your flavor house that you work with, some flavor houses really specialize in getting that right. But yeah, at this stage, I don't know, hard seltzers don't seem to be flying off the shelves. The one that I've seen quite a few times, obviously, is the guys from Brewhog's hard seltzer at the Hogsheads. But yeah, otherwise, I don't really see the seltzers around. And that's, I think once you become a beer person, I'm sure you're exactly the same. When you walk into a restaurant, you look around. How many drafts are being drunk? Look at if they're serving it in branded glasses. What is the favorite draft here? You can tell a lot by the clientele by just seeing what is everyone drinking. Is it in bottles? Is it in draft? Is it more kind of alcoholic type stuff? Brandies and cokes, those kind of things. So to me, that's one of the first things I do when I get into a bar or a restaurant is look around. What is going on? Yeah.
No, we all know you actually go and look how clean the glasses are, Danie.
Yeah, that's become a whole industry on its own now. Huh?
Danie is known to reprimand publicans about the cleanliness of their glass. So what is a dirty glass to a beer?
I mean, to me, if you're going to pay 45, 50, 60 Rand for a beer, all right, the brewer has done his utmost to give you one of the most enjoyable experiences, and then your publican pours it in a dirty glass. I mean, if you can see the kind of lacing marks from the previous glass where the CO2 bubble sticks against, or you can, I've had glasses where the lipstick is still on, or just if it looks like, foam should be nice and dense and compact at the top. And it's like big bubbles and it's falling flat and it becomes like a tea already by the time it gets to you. I know, listen, that is, and it's just a pet peeve of mine. And fortunately or unfortunately, that's kind of rubbed off in the hopaholic groups. I mean, I've done talks on cleaning glasses and those kind of things. And I think it's, it's kind of catching on now that, I don't really see dirty glasses that often, but you would see people, whenever somebody posts a glass, there'll be a comment about, oh, I had to make sure the glass was clean, or, oh, Jake, they served me in a dirty glass, So, yeah. But I think it's important, to wash a glass. If the brewer can wash his fermenter and do everything he needs to do, then something as simple as washing a glass to present a beer to you. I mean, a beer presented in a glass is an experience, all right? When it comes to you and you can see the bubbles and you can see the foam head, you can see the color, be it brilliant, clear, or slightly cloudy, you read a lot. You drink with your eyes before you even get it. And if a beer comes to me and I can already see, listen, there's the lace lines from the previous oak, the foam is flat, I immediately don't even want to drink that beer. Yeah. And I've sent beers back. And down in Long Street, one time, I actually washed a glass to prove a point to the publican because he said, my glasses are clean. And then when we poured the two glasses next to each other, and it was day and night difference, I was asked to leave the restaurant. So I try not to do that anymore. If you give me a dirty glass, when I walk into a restaurant and I can see dirty glasses, as it comes from the thing, then I just turn around and I walk out. I'm not going to spend my money with you. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we're all building, getting a bit of a reputation in with if not, then it's just with our families. We all have to do the little walk of inspection. Yeah. Look at the taps before we sit down.
Listen, and I've had it here by me. It's like, how the hell did that get past my glass washers and stuff? It's like poured it around by myself. Definitely not posting this on our party yesterday. But so it does happen. But I mean, if that's kind of it tells me a lot about the kind of condition or the outlet itself. And I think it's not something to be ashamed about, that insisting on a clean glass. I've sent beers back and then then I watch them, because then they do all kind of tricks and things. I think we're evolving. Gone are the days where the pub, you drink a beer and it's sour, and you say, listen, and then they say to you, oh, that's what craft beer tastes like. No, those days are gone and past. As we are maturing, we are becoming more discerning. For the amount of money we're giving you, we want a great product in a clean glass, served properly to us.
Yeah. Danie, you're working on the Yeti Project. What is that?
The Yeti Project, you don't always get a chance to really explore kind of alternative raw materials in a commercial product. So most breweries, if you launch a new product, there's a certain amount of marketing and, you've got to push it out there. So what we've decided, myself and Gavin Murray from OC Brewery, we both, we were discussing, and it was during lockdown when we basically had nothing to do, and we sat at the brewery. I was installing or recommissioning a packaging line for him in that dead time. We were talking about, we would love to do kind of once-off beers, those kind of things. It's something that is quite prevalent in the Western Cape. If you look at, ACB and Eiger Brewery, and that, they produce awesome beers, and people are, they're known for that beer, and people go drink it at the brewery or at Roy's restaurant, and they enjoy it, and they go there because there's going to be something unique on to offer. And here in Gauteng, we just felt, listen, we want to create that kind of environment and allow us to really experiment with new technologies, new processing ways, and raw materials. I mean, we've imported raw materials and that you wouldn't be able to get here. And basically what it comes down to is we've kind of launched a brand called the Yeti Project, or the Yeti Underground Movement, YUM as it's called. It's become Yeti, because a Yeti is something you don't see often, and you see it a fleeting moment, then it's gone. And that's the idea behind this product. You're going to see something awesome, I hope it's something awesome that you will enjoy. You have a few of them. We only produce 1,000 liters of it, and it's kind of every kind of 6 odd weeks in that direction. That will make 1,000 liters. There's limited outlet. The brewery does the launch. And the idea behind the Yeti is that we won't tell anyone what it is. If you want to know what it is, get on the Yeti Group. The Yeti Group gets date and time of the launch. Nobody knows what it is. We'll do some sneak pictures and things like that, but nothing that gives away what it is. And then you get to the brewery, and then we do the launch there with you. We have beers with you. And then a week later, what's left goes out to selected outlets, and essentially like Capital Craft in Pretoria, Lucas in Sandton, Brian from Radical Tops, they'll get some cans or some kegs and basically just kind of finish up what it is. But the idea is that we want to eventually get to is that we sell as much as possible at the brewery, and people get to taste something that is quite unique. So we've really, gotten out to import raw materials. I mean, hops, use 7,000-8,000 rands hops on a 1,000 liter batch, those kind of things, bringing in specific raw materials, using, we did a reverse mashing, using enzymes and that, mashing in at 85 degrees Celsius and then cooling it down right to 65 with different enzymes to do our brute style, and then using Strata and the Idaho 7. So Strata, as far as I know, has never been used in South Africa, and it gives a very unique character without it being an American IPA type thing. So a lot of our beers, we don't like to call it the style, because the purists will go, oh, but it's a little bit. No, the idea is we brew it in that kind of direction, and we bring in other raw materials and that, to challenge, the flavors and the aromas that you get from it. We work quite closely with Liquid Culture on this, and as well as the guys from Cactus Grass Crisp. They bring in quite a bit of raw materials for us, as well as Liquid Culture will do specific yeast strains that we use in the beers. So it's not just on hops. If the beer is hop forward type thing, it's about grains, it's about the yeast strains, it's about the processing. Right now, we're actually building a piece of equipment for the next project that is basically, I'm going to be signing it off now in the next couple of days. That we're going to change the way that we do specific type of style. So the next beer launch is going to use this piece of equipment as part of the design in it. So it's a whole thing. So each beer kind of focuses on one specific direction. I mean, we've just done the Nitro Leprechaun, which is essentially an Irish red ale, but kind of based on a Kilkenny kind of idea, but using aromatic English hops, Fuggles, East Kent Goldings, and really pushing the aroma a bit, because this is a nitrogenated beer. Whenever you put nitro on beer, it drops the aroma and that, as well as the bitterness. So we brought up the bitterness to give you a little bit of a bite, bring in the aroma, and then we played around with the nitrogenation, how we did it. So at the end of the day, we got nitro in a can without using liquid nitro doses, without using widgets, everything. You take that thing on from the keg, it is cream that comes out there. Fantastic beer, and it's around that process of how do we nitrogenate and how can we apply that. Obviously, the stuff that I learned from it, I apply to my brews and my developments and the same with Gavin. Some of the stuff that he's learned there, he's applying to some of his brands, and that idea of stepping up, doing that next thing. So yeah,
it's a wonderful project. So the big question is, how do you get onto that Yeti Group?
So I've got a QR code. Anyone is welcome to send me a WhatsApp or whatever. I can add you manually, or I've got a QR code. It's not a advertising group or anything. Yeah. We open it up a week beforehand, then people can comment and we can build some some excitement, and then a week afterwards we kind of close the group again.
Okay.
And the idea is it's information. We post pictures every now and then, so you've got an idea of what's going on. And that's it. At Capital Craft, we generally have our banner there with the QR code that you can scan and get onto. Okay. But it's not something we want to blast everywhere. If you're on a group, it's because you want to know about beer.
Yeah. Okay, Danie, that's a wonderful initiative and a very exciting project. So when is the launch of the next beer?
Well, right now we've been hit by some delays in transport that seems to be hitting everyone. So we're waiting for some raw materials. It has finally arrived in Cape Town. So probably in the next 4 weeks, we'll have something in there. So we're a bit extended this time. It's probably 7.5 weeks since our last launch. But it was important for us, because of this raw material that we brought in, that we wait for it to actually do it.
Okay, Danie, and the best place to get in touch with you, is that on your website?
Yeah, you can go onto my website, send me a message from there, no problem. It comes through to my email.
Thank you, Danie. Thanks for for what you do in the industry and for uplifting the whole quality, especially the quality side of the craft brewing industry. We really appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to our stories here online. In the show notes, you will also find a link where you can subscribe to become part of our community and be notified when we upload our latest content.